Welcome to the Saving with Steve show, where we talk about the ins and outs of money. Pretty much everything under the sun that relates to you having a happier, healthier relationship with money. Hey, my name is Steve Sexton. I want to thank you for joining us today. We have a wonderful show. I want to thank you for sharing it with your friends and family, checking us out on YouTube, Google Play, and all the streaming sites. We're actually on 150 of them, which is really crazy. Last week, all the way from Australia, we had Tristan Wright. He's the CEO and founder of Evolve to Grow. Now, he's a business that helps business owners have more time and freedom with themselves, as well as find a way to grow their business. He was definitely the business Sherpa, and we're glad he was part of our show. This week, we have something special. Hey, it's nutrition on a budget. We have Shannon Dentice. You know what? It's more like, I want to say nutrition, but it's more healthy eating on a budget, which is much more important than nutrition. Shannon's a master certified health coach, owner of E&E Health Coaching. She also has been a school psychologist for the last 17 years. So she knows what she's, what we're thinking. Just kidding. You know what? She's worked in office settings to help people overcome frequent sitting, job stress, office treatment temptations, and, you know, helping people give energy to what they do in and outside the workforce. And especially she's helped a lot of people lose 10 pounds or more. So, you know what? I have my wife going, yay, I'm up for that. So with that, I want to welcome Shannon to the show. Shannon Dentice, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Steve. I'm so happy to be here today.
Yeah,
Thanks for having me.
You know what, I'm going to say this. We're really excited to be here today. What a lot of people don't realize is 86% of our audience is female between the ages of 45 and 55. And we try and find the topics that fit. And when I saw yours, I'm like, oh my God, she's the girl. So
Great.
let's, you know what, one of the big things is this. Could you kind of help us? You know, a lot of people have issues with grocery shopping, how to go about doing the best way to buy things and so on. Could you just walk us through some of the best tips that people can have for, you know, how do we grocery shop without buying all the crappy stuff?
Sure. Easier said than done, right?
Well, it always is.
So yes, today, if it's okay with you, I'd like to walk you through how to plan before shopping, what to look for when you're in the store, and what to do when you get home. Does that sound like a good plan?
Oh, that's awesome. Let's do it.
All right. So I think before we even get started with that, it's important when we're thinking about healthy eating, establishing our why or our purpose for healthy eating in the first place. Because if we don't know that, it will be harder for us to think, well, I really need to, you know, incorporate this into my budget. I really need to rework my budget for healthy eating. So is it to gain more energy? Is it to be able to be a good role model for your kids, to prevent disease? Whatever it is, it's really important to have that in the back of your mind so that, again, you can make this an important part of your life, the healthy eating part.
Now, here's another question. A lot of people okay. Some people say, hey, if I'm going to eat healthy, it's going to be a lot more expensive. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times that's just a myth, because being a person, I actually had colon cancer like 15, 16 years ago, but I eat really healthy. And comparative to a lot of my friends, I find out I'm actually spending maybe a little bit more and sometimes less than they actually do. Could you help people understand that?
Yeah, for sure. So there was actually a study conducted by Harvard School of Public Health back in 2013. And at that point, they suggested that healthy diets cost on average $1.50 more per day compared to unhealthy diets. And when we look at today, 2013, that was almost 10 years ago, correct? And with inflation and everything, if we round that up to about $2 a day, that would be about $60 per month. And so that does add up to be more, you're right, it's more expensive, but we look at other things too. We hope that by eating healthier, we will prevent disease. We maybe can prevent things like diabetes where we don't have to pay for insulin and that kind of thing. Maybe cut back on insurance costs with life insurance, because we know that generally your costs can be more for life insurance if you have some health conditions. And, maybe things like co-pays for drugs. So I guess I already covered that. But again, picking what you want to spend your money on. And I want to be sensitive to people who are really going through financial struggles right now. There's people that they really can't afford anymore. And do what you can, even if you can make one of your meals a little bit healthier, that's going to help you in the long run. It's just small steps that you can take. And again, just do what you can, because I know there's a lot of people that are really struggling financially right now.
You know what? Obviously we're saving with Steve, and
Mhm.
healthy eating is significant, but I've also found when, it's interesting, when I had the colon cancer and all that stuff, when I finished all my chemo treatments, I kind of ate everything in the world. And I went from like 190 to like 230 pounds inside of like 3 months. And I said, okay, I got to wind this back a little bit. But one of the things that of recent year, in the last couple of years, I found that, I had people buy prepackaged salads at
Mhm.
$4 each, and they might buy 5 of them during the week. That's $20. And I found out that if I buy a 3-pack of romaine lettuce and the seeds and whatever else I want with the dressing, it's
Mhm.
actually less expensive than that,
Mhm.
and it's healthier.
Mhm.
And I mean, I don't know if you've seen that, or just we live in a convenient society where everything's all set up and wrapped up for you, and that typically costs more, and we pay a premium for that. But a lot of
Mhm.
times, I mean, are you seeing something like that, or is that?
Yeah, I really think you have to make a comparison. You can't just always assume that something is going to be more expensive. I think a lot of times when you go to the grocery store, they have those stickers that compare per ounce. Those are really important to look at, because buying bigger doesn't always equate to cheaper. And you might be surprised. There might be certain things that are on sale. Also, when we look at prepackaged things, like you mentioned, maybe you buy a package of vegetables that are already cut up. If we look at that and we use that to prepare our meals, and it's keeping us from eating out instead, because it's saving us a little bit of time and a little bit less hassle, you're probably saving money in the long run anyway, because you're not eating out. You're still eating at home. So maybe you'll buy the vegetables that are chopped up, but you'll still cook the whole chicken in your slow cooker or something like that.
Mhm. So since we're talking about stores and what to buy, so let's talk about some tips for planning before you go to the store. You have some things like when planning, look for overlap in ingredients.
Mhm.
I've never thought of that before in my life.
Something new we learn every day, right?
Well, here's the
So,
funny thing. I'm the
yes.
one that does the grocery shopping in our family. So I'm like, gosh.
So I think the reason it's important to look for overlapping ingredients, and 5 ingredients or less, even if you can, is because you're going to possibly avoid some of those obscure ingredients that you might only need for one recipe, and then the rest of it goes to waste, right? We've all seen recipes like that. It also helps you to make sure that what you buy doesn't go to waste. So you might only need part of a head of lettuce for one recipe, but then you might be able to use the rest of it for a different recipe. So then the half that you didn't use originally will not go to waste. Um, yeah, it's the good way to plan for that is to look at websites like Taste of Home is a good example of one that has like a database that you can type in ingredients that you're looking for or ingredients that you want to avoid. So that's a good place to look and find recipes that have common ingredients. There's a couple of apps that I've seen too. I haven't personally used them, but there's ones like Supercook or Tasty that I have read do about the same thing, where they'll help you find certain ingredients.
Okay.
And really, you could use that too if you have leftovers in your refrigerator and you're like, well, I have, celery and I have some fish that I need to eat up, or, something like that. You can type in different ideas to make sure you're using up what you already have as well.
So when you're planning, like, for example, we like to plan like 3 or 4 meals in advance. So, how do you go about planning, when you're doing the shopping, when you're looking at 3 or 4 meals, as opposed to just trying to pick out what you think you might need?
Mm-hmm. Well, again, I think using like a website or an app and trying to overlap those recipes, like if you type in on Taste of Home, let's see, quinoa, green pepper, bacon, chicken, I don't know what the fifth ingredient, but you type all those in and it should pull up some recipes for you. So then you can say, maybe I want to make this that shares these 5 common ingredients. And then maybe I want to make that as well. And that will use up the rest of my supply of what I buy. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
Okay.
So you know what? When should people be looking at sales ads, getting discounts, all that kind of stuff before they do shopping?
I think that's great to look at sales ads. And I know that there's certain stores that will have, if you're of age, senior discount days and that kind of thing. It's good to use that to plan. You could look at ingredients and say, oh, cherries are on sale this week, or a roast beef roast that I could stick in the slow cooker is on sale, and plan your meals around that. I think that's fine. I think one thing to be cautious of is if you are just buying things on sale because they're on sale, right? And we're all guilty of that at some point, right? I used to do that with clothing. Just, do I necessarily need it? No, but it was a good deal, so I bought it. But yeah, it's important to look at those things again. And keeping in mind, we talked about earlier, looking at the ounces. So just because it's bigger and it's on sale doesn't necessarily mean it's cheaper. Go back and look at those labels per ounce and see what the actual cost per ounce is.
That's perfect. So, hey, look, we're going to have to take a break. And everybody, you want to stick with us. We have more Shannon Dentice. She's going to be talking to us about healthy living on a budget. So stick with us. We'll be right back with more Saving with Steve. Okay. Hey, Cameron, we just finished segment 2 with Shannon Dentice. We're going to be walking into segment 1 with Shannon Dentice. We're going to be moving into segment 2 here in just a few seconds. So, hey, what I'd like to do is talk about tips for when you're at the store and tips for when you get home. Okay. So we'll go into those things and then we'll kind of wrap it up. So here we go. Where do we go? That's what I want. All right. Cameron, we got 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hey, welcome back to the Saving with Steve show. I truly thank you for tuning in. I appreciate you letting your friends, family, and associates know about the show. Hey, all the replays are available at savingwithsteve.us. If you're enjoying the stories of helpful information and insight on Saving with Steve, then I encourage you to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you'll never miss a show, and check out a few of our affiliates at UK Health Radio, BBS Radio, Talk Radio New York City, E360 TV, Las Vegas TV networks. All these networks are dedicated to empowering you to uplift your spirit, live a life of financial and personal freedom. Now, if you want to check out the behind the scenes, you can always go to Saving with Steve Sexton, get guest gifts, the whole shot. So here we go. We're back with Shannon Dentice. Shannon, again, thanks for being part of the show.
Thank you.
We've been talking about healthy eating on a budget. And you know what, now I'd really like to get into, you're in the store. You know what? I'm a power shopper. So I make my list. I go get it. I'm out. My wife hates it because she thinks you should walk up and down the aisle and check out everything. And that doesn't work for me because I don't have the patience. But it does save me money because my wife goes shopping. It's far more expensive. But so what I'd like to do, let's talk about healthy, eating on a budget, and the tips are in the store, but also tips when you get home.
Okay. Yes, I would love to talk about that. You're right. I think shopping with intention is so important because it's when we stick to our list, we're less likely to walk through all the different aisles and think, oh, that looks interesting. Oh, that's on sale. I think I'll try that. You're shopping with intention and you're less likely to get distracted with other purchases. So that's a good idea, Steve. Thanks for bringing that up. Another question that often comes up is whether or not to buy organic versus conventional grown produce. And we know that organic produce can be really expensive to buy, but if that's something that's important to you to reduce pesticides in your diet, what I usually recommend is there's a list that changes. It's updated every year. It's called the Dirty 15 produce list that an organization called EWG puts out. And what that does is it lists the 15 produce items that have the most pesticide residue on them. So those are the ones that if you can to buy those organic, that's the best. And actually I was listening to a podcast last week and they were talking about if you can stick your thumbnail into a piece of produce, it's more susceptible to the pesticides and you're more likely to ingest it. So I thought that was a good
Oh,
kind of rule of thumb, no pun intended there, but so like harder things like mangoes or pineapple, something like with a really tough skin, those are more okay to buy conventionally. And obviously if you buy conventional fruits and vegetables, that's way better than not eating fruits and vegetables. So I say go for it.
okay. So, what's the tips for, when you're looking at frozen vegetables?
Frozen vegetables, I would say if you are going to go between canned or frozen, frozen is a good option to go. You're still saving a lot of money over fresh. And oftentimes the frozen vegetables and fruits are harvested pretty quickly and then frozen. So you're still maintaining nutrients that vegetables in canned goods don't often have. So I think
Okay.
that's a good, if you're looking to save some money,
Mhm.
again, checking the prices and the ounces, but oftentimes, especially with fruits and vegetables out of season, it's best to buy frozen. A lot of times you'll save money, but if they're in season, you can sometimes find some really good deals on fresh produce too.
Well, in the last couple of years, we've seen this significant increase in, meat prices. So what's the options there for lower cost that's
Yeah.
healthy?
One thing that I like to do, there's a lot of recipes that I like that have ground sirloin or ground beef in them, but I try to limit my red meat intake as well. So something I do that cuts cost as well as that is using half ground turkey and half ground beef. So what you can do is if you're not going to use it all at once, just cook the pound of ground beef with the pound of ground turkey, and then just cut it in half. And you can always put half of it in the freezer to use later for spaghetti sauce or whatever you want to use it for later. But I really don't taste a difference when you have the ground beef mixed in with the ground turkey. You really can't tell a difference. So
As long as you spice it up, you're good.
that's,
Um,
yeah.
So one of the things that I noticed when I was looking at all your information, it says, what should we be cautious when there's a sale? What should be cautious of sales? What's the big thing that we should know?
First, ask yourself, is this something I really need? Is it something I'm really going to use? Or am I buying it just because it's a sales impulse? But then also looking at the expiration date, pretty much everything in the grocery store has an expiration date on it. Sometimes it's really faint printed and you have to look very closely, but you should be able to find an expiration date on it and ask yourself, realistically, am I going to be able to work my way through this product before it expires? But I think those are really important things to look at, especially when grocery stores are trying to move their products. If something's close to an expiration date, it would make sense that they put it on sale, right? So just something to be aware of.
Okay. Now, we've done all the shopping at the store. What about the tips for when you bring everything home? What's the big tips for being at home?
I think one thing to be thoughtful of, and I don't think a lot of people think about this, if you have, let's say, a bag of apples that you bought a day or two ago, and they start going bad right away, the day or two after you bought it, it's okay to save your receipt and bring those back, because things like apples should not be going bad that quickly, unless you have them in, I don't know, like you left them in your hot car or something like that. But just be mindful of that. Like if something is just spoiling way faster than what it should, it's okay to bring that back to the grocery store, and most stores will honor that and give you a replacement or your money back.
Wow. Because I was at a friend's house and they had just bought a salad and the lettuce was brown and stuff like that. And I don't think they even realized it. And all they did was just throw it away. They're like, oh, forget it. And I was like, I didn't know I can return that.
Yes.
So that's good. Now, when it comes to, if somebody's like a juice drinker, is there something they should be thinking about, especially if they want to be healthy on a budget?
Yes. Well, this is good for your kids too, because there's a lot of kids that love juice and they drink a lot of it. Start adding some water to it. And you can add just a little bit at a time until you build up more of a taste where you doing maybe half and half water and half juice, and you won't really notice it. It's also good to cut down on the sugar too, because juice, a lot of people think of it as a healthy drink, but it really doesn't have the fiber in it. It's got natural sugar in it, but it can bump up your glucose or your blood sugar levels. So adding some water can help with that, and also saves your cost on buying juice as well.
So, you know what about the freezer? What are the tips for the freezer?
The freezer. I have one of those chest freezers where things go and they just disappear in there, and then you find them a year later.
More like
And you're
5.
like, what? What's this? No, make sure that you have some kind of a system. Deep freezers are great, or even the freezer on your refrigerator. But keeping a list somewhere, whether it's on your phone or old-fashioned tape to the front of your freezer, or whatever it is, so you can keep track of what you have. Because otherwise you're going to waste a lot of money by thinking, oh, I'll just freeze this and use this later, when, year comes, you forgot about it and you have to throw it away.
Now, what I'd like to do is focus a little bit about your coaching, E&E Health Coaching. Tell us a little bit about that. I know you're a master certified health coach, you're a psychologist, so you've got a lot of education behind you. So tell us how you go about helping people.
Sure. Well, I like to compare myself to driving with health coaching as driving with a GPS instead of just winging it and not really having a direction. So sure, anyone can look up how to eat healthy, how to get more movement into their day, how to combat stress online. Anyone can read books about that. But I actually save you time and money in the long run because I have proven strategies to help you get there. I can help you see detours that you might not know are coming because I'm experienced in this area. I can help you take a look back at things that maybe didn't go well in the past and try to figure out how you can learn from that and move forward in a better direction. So it's really, it's not just telling people what to do, it's looking at thoughts that are maybe holding you back. It's helping you overcome obstacles maybe that you have in your mind, like I'm not good enough, I'm never going to succeed. So it's really a very helpful tool. And what I would say for anyone that's contemplating, like, I don't know, is health coaching the right thing for me? I do offer free consultations. So we can talk and I can get you started with a couple tips right off the bat. And then if it makes sense to work with me, we can go from there.
That's wonderful. So how can people get a hold of you, Shannon?
Well, I am on several social media platforms. The big one, I'm on Instagram, and that's just my first and last name smushed together. So Shannon Dentice, ShannonDentice. That's on Instagram. I do have a private Facebook group, especially for women. I know you said a lot of your audience members are women, and it's called Workplace Women, Losing Weight and Stress to Increase Energy. And so I do offer a lot of tips and support for people on there as well. Otherwise, if you Google E&E Health Coaching, you'll find my website, and all my contact information is on there as well.
Shannon, I want to thank you for joining us today. And again, if you'd like to get a hold of Shannon, you can go to E&E Health Coaching on the web. And again, everybody, this is Shannon Dentice. Shannon, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and information with us. I know it'll make the day of a lot of people who have been looking forward to this episode. And you know what, maybe we'll have you back in the future. So I want to thank you for joining us, and you have a wonderful day. Hey, folks, this is Steve Sexton. Again, we're talking about ins and outs of money. We're going to be right back in just a few moments. Got to pay some bills. Now, welcome back to the Saving with Steve show, where we talk about the ins and outs of money. I want to send a special thanks to our affiliates at UK Health Radio, BBS Radio, AMF and 247, and all the others that share the Saving with Steve show throughout the United States and the rest of the world. Now, the next segment is talking about the 3 biggest retirement risks. First, longevity, inflation, and market risk. I'm going over the risks and give you some things you need to consider implementing. Make sure you review any changes with a financial professional. This is key because, you know what, when people get to pre-retirement, retirement, they're actually investing for a new stage in life, because when you're 20, 30, and 40, it's really about accumulation. When you get a couple of years before you retire, it's about preservation and distribution of your assets so they last as long as you do. So it's about setting up some side of setting up your own defined benefit plan to make sure you have the income there so you don't have to worry about that. And then obviously you have other investments. So let's talk about longevity. It's really the risk of outliving your money. Economists and advisors, they talk about longevity all the time, but most retirees and pre-retirees just don't. You need to pay living expenses for all those years you're living, with annual expense increases for medical and long-term care. A healthy 65-year-old man has a 22-year life expectancy, meaning he has a 50% probability of living to the age of 87. For healthy females age 65 or older, they have an expectancy to live 2 to 4 years longer. A married couple 65 or older has a 75% probability that one spouse will live to the age of 88, a 50% probability that one spouse will live to 93, and a 25% probability that one spouse will live to the age of 98. Hey, next is inflation. Even with relatively low inflation prior to a few years ago, purchasing power dollar declines over time. So think about that statement. 1972, a stamp was 21 cents. Today it's 52. If you had $100,000 in a CD earning 1%, last year you can buy $100,000 worth of stuff. Because of a 7% inflation, your $100,000 can only purchase 94. That's purchasing power. The expenses that increase over time are typically medical. The consumer price index typically averages a 3% increase over time. Medical averages a 5% over time. The cost of most goods and services you purchase will rise over time. You need to increase your income as well as to maintain your retirement lifestyle. And the third one is market declines. It's a big risk. Most retirees will be comfortable as long as they earn the historical long-term average rates of return. Problem is, bear markets in the future, happening in the first couple of years when they retire or when they're about to retire, are troublesome. Why? If you look at 2008, you look at 1999, 2000 with the tech and the housing bubble, a 38% drop in the market really takes a dent into somebody's retirement. In fact, many people had the joy of a 38% drop. The reality is they would prefer not to. So you have to look at ways of how to deal with that. Hey, what can you do? First of all, make sure you maximize Social Security. Only about 4% of Americans optimize their Social Security. Most people leave tens of thousands of dollars on the table, by the way, also reducing their lifestyle benefits. You know what? According to CNBC, they did a study with an economist out of Boston University, indicated $3.4 trillion just went out the door in Social Security because people took their benefits at the wrong time. In fact, that study also showed that, he got the operations manual for Social Security, and it indicates they can't give you advice. And if they slipped up and did, that advice usually results in benefits that were lower 50% of the time. So you want to make sure you maximize your benefits in the context of your retirement. Do not take too much from your investments. Make sure your withdrawal rates enable you to withdraw even with market volatility that lasts for the rest of your life. Consider annuities either to reduce your risk in the portfolio or to create a guaranteed income that'll adjust with inflation as long as you live. Now, I'm going to spend a second on that subject. Here's the biggie. Think about it like this. If you can guarantee your income inflation adjusted like a defined benefit plan, and then have a whole bunch of money sitting in the market that'll grow, and if the market goes down like it has been, you don't have to worry about your income. You just wait for it to recover. Others consider having a 2-bucket strategy, like a 60-40 risk versus safe bucket, withdrawing from the risk bucket when the market is performing, and when the market is declining, withdraw from the safe bucket allows the risk bucket to recover. Hey, that's a wonderful strategy. Again, before you look at different strategies, make sure you sit down with your financial advisor to make sure that strategy is best for you. Unexpected medical increases or long-term care costs. Consider supplementing your coverage through Medigap or Medicare Advantage plans. Budget for long-term care costs, even if you don't need home health care. Consider planning for some type of assisted living as well. Protecting against long-term care expenses by either obtaining a long-term care coverage, long-term care life insurance policy that covers long-term care, or an annuity that has long-term care benefits. And last but not least, get a trust. Make sure you have your wishes in writing, get a will or trust, and a healthcare directive. Now, folks, I want to thank you all for joining us here on Saving with Steve, where we want to give you our best advice for helping you save money, improve your lifestyle, and live a life of financial and personal freedom. With that, I want to thank you for joining us right here on Saving with Steve. We'll look forward to seeing you next time right here. Have a wonderful week. Stay safe, stay healthy. Bye-bye.